Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second day of this Congress. Last night I hope most of you were with us. So you know that the new look to work is this. So I decided I will do my moderation this morning in the new working look we all have, and I'm a little bit disappointed that none of you is wearing the new dress. So, but we're talking, this one, what is coming is, the next league. But as this panel is about experiences, I hope that you had nice experience, the ones of you that were in the water last night. I'm ready for the experiences of my 4 panelists this morning, and I would just like to ask László Puczkó to the microphone to give us an impulse, a first start of the morning, and a warm welcome to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So good morning, bonjour, very good morning, hola, buenos dias, I'm a linguist, obviously. So very good morning. Thank you for the invite, Simona and Erta. Much appreciated. And, it's a little family now. Not as many people as when we had all the dignitaries, as you know, and the TV channels didn't turn up either. But, that's how it goes when you have events like that. Probably, I think it's the second worst time slot to have second day first speaking in the morning. The worst is the first day afternoon last speaker. That's the worst. But this is the second worst somehow. Still appreciated that you're all here. Thank you for that. So I was invited to talk a little bit about experiences. And this is one of the words which is terribly overrated because everything is an experience. Going to the shops is an experience. Being on an airport, especially nowadays, is very much so an experience. So everything is an experience. So when you talk about experiences, what exactly are we talking about? So I want to guide you through some rather interesting topics. My job, just FYI, when I'm not speaking at events, is creating well-being DNAs and stories for sites and destinations. And what you see today is more like a summary of what the approach that we tend to apply. So when you create experiences, we want to take guests or potential guests to a mental space. I know it's very early in the morning talking about mental spaces, but that's the whole topic of it. We want to create something which they theoretically like and need to understand. When we talk about the beauty of hot springs or thermals or thermales, you already have a big issue of how to translate it. If you're in North America, thermal means very little because they don't know what you're talking about. You need to say hot spring, whereas if you're in Europe, hot spring is like, what do you mean hot spring? Did you warm it up? What exactly is it? So already have a language issue, and then you have all the various other language variations. So when you say mental spaces, it's difficult to know what your potential guests anticipate to have. Because everybody here is, wearing a lovely bathrobe. Everybody here is a hot spring enthusiast or a thermal enthusiast, but most people in the world, they're not. If you don't have it in your country, you don't know what it is. That's factual. You know what a lake like, you know how a mountain looks like, you understand what a city may look like. The hot spring is like, what? Especially when you go to different places, hot springs are very different. Some are smelly, very smelly, in fact. Some are clear, some are not clear. And you start to worry, what exactly is this? This murky, dark, smelly thing. Shall I go in it? Is it at all nice? So talking about hot springs and what people associate with it, this is just, it's a little bit of a summary of what we come across. It's recreation, it's leisure, it's a natural spectacle, it's a social space, something that I don't know and it looks interesting, all of these and many more. But which one is it that you want to create? because some of these are in the mental space of our guests. That's what they associate with it. And of course, at the same time, you have the same people in the same place. Some who look at it as something that looks good on Instagram. Some of them anticipate as a social space. Some of them are there because they think it's healing at the same time, in the same place. And they may not respect each other's interests. So when talking about experiences as such, it needs to be unique, memorable, and sustainable, as in every guest can have the same experience. That's bloody hard to create, that everybody would have the same experience. But that's, experiences don't happen. You need to create them, theoretically. And that's what, we want to really talk about here. That's just one of my favorites. It's in Costa Rica. It's Tabacón. And that is something, I tell you. I mean, if you want to see anything and want to have a spectacle, that's that. And I know I was on a business trip in Costa Rica, and I had 25 minutes to experience that. I was really disappointed. I wanted to spend days, and I had 25 minutes. But most, especially guests from North America, look at it as a natural spectacle. Yeah, it's hot. Done. They don't go beyond, it's a lovely hot spring thing in the forest. But they don't really know anything more of it, obviously. And when you look at the creation of experiences, you need to look at senses, feelings, thinking, associations, what people do as a reaction and what I want them to do, and how they relate personally and psychologically. I don't know how many of your termales or hot springs do have an experience map. Hands up. Who has an experience map? Anyone? No experience map? When you have, like in a film, a storybook. This is when you arrive, this is what happens, this is what I want to achieve, this is how guests will react, and this is what they will take home. Do you have that? I would be surprised. Sorry. Why? Because we look at, it's nice, everybody will enjoy it, it's fantastic. Yes, but we are missing the boat sometimes because the guests don't get the most out of it because we haven't planned it accordingly. It's another one, let's say in Colombia. It's not a spectacle, it's more like I'm selling it as reconnection with nature. Not as a hot spring, forget that. I'm talking about a natural space where you can reconnect. It's a totally different layer of communication. And of course, as an experience as well. And happens to be hot spring based. And I think it's a very important message. It goes way beyond the point of purchase. Anticipation and the experiences as well goes well beyond that. Why? Because, for example, when you say, come to South Korea with me, and I can take you to a lovely space in the middle of Daejeon, where we can sit and walk in hot springs in the middle of the city. You would go like, that sounds interesting. I've never done anything like that before. I want to go there. It's exciting. So it goes way beyond that. So experience is not just like you arrive and you leave. And of course, this is sold as a social space. Not a healing space, not an experience space, it's a social space. Why? Because that's where people every afternoon come, sit in, chat, gossip, go home, and at the same time had 1 hour putting their feet into the hot springs, and it happens to be good to their skin and the circulation. But to most, it's a social experiment. And my favorite terminology is the imaginative hedonism. I know it's too early in the morning, I understand, but still is imaginative hedonism. Hot springs often associated with being hedonistic. I'm not talking about the medical treatment in one of the, which is not exactly hedonistic. Could be, but not exactly hedonistic. But we go beyond that, it becomes a hedonistic thing. Why? Because 99.72% of the population in the world does not have a hot spring at home. Do you? I mean, we don't. Therefore, it's a unique thing, so it's hedonistic. And we have to treat it that way, as a hedonistic, but imaginative hedonism. Hands up, whoever tried to be mermaiding. Mermaning? Gentlemen, you can do that. Anyone mermaning? It's not just women. Guys in the back, anybody mermaning? Mermaiding? Nothing? It's very chic. Looks fabulous on Instagram. Fabulous. It may send the wrong message, but it's really interesting. But it's a hedonistic thing because you feel beautiful. I mean, assumably, you feel very special, and you feel that you are just so different. And that's again, it's water associated with water. It doesn't have to be hot, but obviously it's much better if it was hot. I need to again ask the question: when you create your non-existent experience map, which of these you want to achieve? You want to have optimal, engaging, creative, extraordinary, memorable, enchanting, or immersive experience? Which one of those? We can have a lovely survey. Which one anybody likes here? Don't tell me you want to have all of it, because it doesn't happen. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. You need to pick one. What most your guests would need to achieve as a result. And you need to work on that. It doesn't happen by accident. And they are very different when you create them and when you deliver them. All right? I suppose at least half of the audience would know who that person is. Right? Yes, this gentleman is rather well known, not that far away from here, and he was drawing in the bathtub. You know that? He was drawing in the bathtub. That was his thing. Why? Because he found being in water increasing his creativity. That was his thing. And probably you know that being in water, that you start to think, and it becomes like a personal thing, and your thoughts carried away, and so on. So it actually incubates ideas, being in water. And also, showers. I'm not asking how many of you sing or whistle in the shower. I'm not asking, because that's too personal. But that's again a thing. Why? Because it's a different atmosphere, different environment, and your mind works very differently. Which is very different from a medical treatment when you have to go in, put the weights on, and you leave. Because it becomes more like a burden or a compulsory thing. But how many of us would use this when you create what your guests should get out of your visit? Or, in Japan, take it to the next level, it becomes a digital experience of various projections and digital imagery in the hot springs, taking to the next level. Why? Because that's, they wanted to do something with the digital productions. Anybody was bathing with ducks apart from me? Not live ones, dead ones. Ducks, it was like 500 little yellow ducks in China. That little pool there, that exists, I was sitting in the middle of it. Bizarre? Yes. Stupid? A bit. Memorable? Absolutely. And I have a duck since. I have to take one, obviously. And you think, oh, that's so cheap to create something like that. Yeah, probably it's cheap. And of course, can't everybody have ducks in the pools? But it gives you an idea that you you could come up with something different, in a way. And the reason is that we want to see how people look at their well-being, or Wohlfühlen, or Bienestar, or whatever those concepts, and what they associate, what they want to get out of it. And I just highlighted one of the findings of the WTA research we did. The reward yourself, self-healing, and of course the relaxation. But how can you reward yourself if the experience was boring? It's not a reward, is it? It's just, well, yeah, shall I go again? No, because it's sort of average. What's next? So this is what the guests want. Can we actually deliver that? All right. which one shall we choose of the four things? I give you a couple of examples. Illusions, Banasification of everything, being an eminent, or just entertainment. That's a hot spring in China, and they cook eggs. Who would like to try a thermal water boiled egg? Once, why not? Yeah, sure. It tastes nothing, don't worry. But it's a different thing. So we cook some eggs. It's bizarre. Of course, you don't sit with the eggs, but you can, create something totally different. There's gifting, self-gifting, hedonism. It's not necessarily thermal, but it's heated, obviously. And they have a fantastic time. It's not historic, sorry. But it's a very, very different experience. And don't forget, one of the main issues is time. Someone mentioned yesterday, I can't remember who the person was, you can't sit in waters 24 hours. You can't, and you won't. But you have to create reason to spend time in there. So what's the reason? For example, let's say drinks and films. And, which escape you want to create. I'm not even asking anymore how many of you have your escaping study done for your experience. Which of these? Senses? Is it experiences as such? Is dreaming? Or services? Which of these? Again, it may sound very pedantic, what I'm describing to you, but believe me, Disney is not by accident is the one place to go for experiences. It's not by accident. They work bloody hard. Every second of your visit is planned. You think it's natural, it's just happening, but it isn't. It isn't. But you still love it. It's a sandscape from South Korea. You put ginseng in the hot spring. Why? Because locally, ginseng is considered to be a healing property, internally and externally, and they combine it with the water. Or red wine in Japan, for the matter, or pine needles in South Korea, again, for the matter. Small pools, pine needles, scents, senses. And that's an experience-scape, yes. All right, I would say. Given to Bath, all right, as such. But, it's a spectacle of being on a rooftop, looking over the roofs. Otherwise, all right, but that's a spectacle. That's a different story. Or a dreamscape from Austria, just down the road from Munich, just down there. It's very different. So I want to be in that pool. Why? Because I've never been in a pool like that. End of. There's a good enough reason to create visits. You may not want to go there many times, but you go there a couple of times. All right, we have been looking at lifestyle concepts and well-being concepts from all around the world. This is just a couple of examples. We looked at 42 of different lifestyle concepts. And you wonder why, talking about Europe, none of the European well-being and lifestyle concepts would include hot springs. It doesn't. Although historically humans think that guys, Romans, beyond, is being part of life. Why is not defined as such? But it isn't. You have to go to Russia, to Japan, to Hawaii, and to New Zealand to find that bathing is an elemental part of lifestyle. Now, not 500 years ago, now. If you go to Azad, you go to Wabi Sabi, you go to Aloha, or you go to Hakka, you would learn that if you wanted to follow the local lifestyle, you would need to go to hot springs on a regular basis. That would be nice, isn't it? Creating visits, creating stories for European, promotion. But there isn't. There just isn't. And it's sort of missing an opportunity here, I believe. And of course, Kejif, which is from the Middle East. All right, so talking about engagement levels and wrapping up, most of the guests would go to a hot spring because of curiosity, because they don't know. Oh, it looks nice, a lovely building, it's a lovely pool, it's a lovely setting, I want to go, especially a young generation who could not even look up from their phone, you know, as they are. That's what they want. Lovely photo, Instagram, out. So don't talk to me about health, well-being, balance, skincare, rubbish, boring. Quick, fast, Instagram off. And you need to respond to that. You know, elderly markets are phasing out. Those who have 3 weeks for going to a medical treatment package, who has 3 weeks paid to go for medical treatment 2022? No one. And it won't, except you are, working for your own company, then you don't have 1 day, let alone 3 weeks. So that old package is gone. So we have to look at it, have to create the experience and the reason to visit. And again, the time that I want to spend time in your place, not 5 minutes longer. Why? Because I spend more. The actual impact on your well-being will be more complex, not just visual, but it goes beyond. But you need to orchestrate the reason and the actual activities on site. Music, sounds, ducks, whatever. We have endless opportunities here. So some take-home messages. This is not just about the water. Really, really isn't. We talk about water all the time, but it's creating experiences, it's beyond the water. Before the water and beyond the water. What exactly is your story? What is it? And what I really suggest to think of is the time and activity-based journeys. What I want most of my guests get out of this visit. We heard yesterday about the gentleman from Argentina, how many stories they create on a daily basis. Yes, that's what we need to do. Obviously, it's difficult when you do medical, because that's a protocol. You can't just create stories out of a protocol. Still, you can provide stories supporting the protocol, obviously. And you need to create your thermal story. You know, Sylvia was talking about the Sparty, which is a story, being grabbed underwater by some foreign gentleman. That's a very different experience, as we know that. But that's part of the experience, isn't it? And you need to really create that. You need to work on it. You need to apply all these senses and the feels and everything else. And you can achieve that position. But it doesn't happen on its own, honestly. You have to believe in that. Because that's what experience creation really is. Dankeschön. Gracias. Appreciated. And I'm sure we will have some discussions later. Thank you.